remember, China has not used force in a major way in over 40 years. That's pretty extraordinary for a great power. It shows an extraordinary level of restraint. And it's one reason why I, for one, am not terribly worried about China. I certainly don't think we need to, some massive defense upgrade. I think we could deal well with, sort of a moderate defense spending, something on the order of $500 billion, not $1.5 trillion. By the way, folks, that's your children and your grandchildren's future being mortgaged away to build nuclear missiles and so forth to get ready to fight China. So, we really ought to think very carefully before we present China as this, a terrible enemy that's about to rampage across the Pacific after it jumps on the trampoline of Taiwan. The new Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's remarks from November were very harmful, I would say.
Saying that she said out loud something that we presume to be true but had never been said out loud, which is that a Japanese Prime Minister saying we assume we would come to Taiwan's defense if China...
Well, you presume it to be true. I don't, sorry, Nick, I do not presume it to be true. I think many Japanese are rather too smart to get involved in that. They know that the cost for Japan would be immense, and they don't want to take these kind of risks. In fact, polls show, when asked, that Japanese asked that same question, a majority do not want to fight that war. They estimate, they ran an iteration of a Taiwan war game about 40 times. In almost every case, they said the United States loses both forward deployed aircraft carrier groups in the first turn, so in the first week. That's 1 week of this war, folks, that could go on for years. Do you understand that? So that's 10,000 dead Americans. Look, the geography is very stark. Taiwan is 100 miles off of China, okay? And we are about 8,000 miles away from China. So you don't have to be a PhD in strategy to understand that China has enormous advantage from a strategy point of view, right? They can bring so much more firepower to the fight, and that was borne out in this war game. Look, I have studied, China's anti-ship missiles very carefully. By the way, the missiles that you were talking about, those Tomahawks, which we would fire from our SSGN, are all subsonic. I mean, they can be shot down quite easily. It's 20, 30-year-old technology. China, just in the last 6 months, has revealed 4 new naval hypersonic missiles that can be shot from air launch missiles, they can be launched from submarines, and they can be launched from China's surface fleet now. I can tell you, our Navy doesn't have any of those. They have 0 hypersonic weapons operational in the fleet. So there is a disparity that's growing. Now, he's correct about the tonnage. I'll grant you that point. But, the carrier, in my view, I've long argued, it's more or less an obsolete platform. It can be attacked and sunk quite easily. So the disparity is there. And what I'm telling you, and I'm not the only one in the U.S. Navy, I served or taught for 20 years at Naval War College. We have that in common, our profession. But I can tell you that many people in the Navy are extremely concerned. And this is shaping up, I believe there was a title even in Naval Institute Proceedings magazine. It was called, the coming Tsushima, Battle of Tsushima. That was where the Russian fleet was completely wiped out in a matter of hours. That such a tragedy could befall our Navy. So we had better be very judicious and cautious here. And yes, we might have to fight, we may have to fight China at some point. I agree, that is conceivable. I hope it doesn't come to pass. It shouldn't. We may have to do that, but we had better do it on favorable ground and not right off their
Let me just...
No, I think this is completely wrong-headed. I think we'll have to address this issue of the Civil War. I think we just need to look at the facts. What is the name of Taiwan? It's actually not Taiwan. The constitutional name is the Republic of China. Republic of China. Okay, ROC. What is the name of the mainland China? Is the People's Republic of China. So you're going to tell me that the People's Republic of China having a conflict with the Republic of China is not a civil war? I mean, it's ridiculous on its face. It's just Americans need to apply common sense. Let me give you a little more common sense. There's a museum in Taipei. It's called the National Palace Museum. Get that, National Palace Museum. It brags about having the best collection of Chinese artifacts in the world. I think it's probably true. I've been there. Now, if you go to that museum, the National Palace Museum, there's not a single item in that museum from Taiwan. A little strange, isn't it? It's also a little strange that most of the streets names in Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, are named after provinces and cities in the mainland. Okay, so these are many examples that show that even the leader of Taiwan for most of its history has also shared this concept that Taiwan is part of China. And to pretend otherwise is just, I think, well, frankly, it's ridiculous. Now, this issue of is Taiwan kind of a stepping stone toward, some kind of Chinese empire, as Professor Yu seems to imply? I don't think that's at all the case. China doesn't have claims to these other countries. They in no way approximate its obvious claim over Taiwan. And if you look around, Professor Yu said that there's all kinds of conflicts on its borders. Well, there is some truth to that.
美军舰队因确保在获得指令的27分钟内就能随时投入战斗，美空军近期还进行所谓孤立作战演练，模拟遭所谓解放军切断补给、增援、断联72小时情况下如何生存并持续战斗。
这27分钟并不是说快速的交战，而是逃命和保命。如果说大型核动力航母慢慢悠悠的想要出港，很可能还没有离开码头，航母上都已经被炸出了大窟窿，也是在给白宫敲警钟。美国想要针对台海事务进行介入，下场可想而知。
播报新闻是我的日常，必须时刻保持妆容和皮肤的最佳状态。当来到人生中最重要的时刻，也是 KS 逆时奇迹帮助我轻松驾驭，闪闪发光。KS 逆时奇迹活肤露全效精华、精华霜，多达5种 EGF，6大冻龄关键成分，保湿效果让我非常满意，小细纹也不再困扰我。我就是我自己的最佳女主角 ，KS 让我从容自信、光彩动人。我是我人生中的大女主，我的最爱我做主。KS 逆时奇迹系列热卖中，下单请上快点购。透过中天新闻网 App 下单立减50，或输入 CTI 推荐码有额外折扣。